Jamal Niaz here with the PFL's own MMA legend, Dan Hardy, and I can't believe I'm saying this. It's Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou in Saudi, coming up in March. Riyadh season is absolutely spoiling combat sports fans, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the Fury and Ngannou fight, the whole event was incredible to be out there and the build-up for it and everything. I did not expect to get this fight though. Especially after Ngannou had such a good performance against Fury, I thought there's going to be somebody else in the boxing world that's going to step up, but I didn't think it'd be Anthony Joshua. I mean, what a great move by him and by Eddie. To step in there. Ngannou's second fight, there's a lot of interest around him, a lot of hype around him, and on paper, AJ should get in there and school him. He should make him look like an amateur. You know what I mean? But after what happened against Fury,
we all thought that the first time, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what's going to happen? You can't underestimate Ngannou. One thing he doesn't have is the surprise factor now, right?
Yeah.
Like now, we've got to expect him to not bite on feints and to hold his shape and to look like a boxer and to not get wild. So there are certain things that he doesn't have going into this fight against AJ. But at the same time, I feel like AJ, no matter when he fought, if he was going to fight Ngannou in his first boxing match, he would have come in prepared and ready. So I think a little insight into who Ngannou is going to give AJ a bit of an easier job, but still, there's a lot of unpredictables.
He's always been a humble fighter, always been a humble champion, Ngannou. But he said to Ariel Helwani that he feels AJ will be an easier fight to drop than Fury. Obviously, I'm guessing he's basing that off the Ruiz fights, the Usyk fights, where he's shown those chinks in the armour. But AJ, that's gonna get his back up big time, isn't it? Coming up still against a guy in his second fight, regardless of what he's done in the MMA world. This guy's coming in against the biggest fighters currently in boxing, and he's going there full of confidence, isn't he?
Exactly that, and I think that's a benefit to Ngannou, is that he's got that confidence now. Because if he'd not had the performance that he did against Fury, like AJ could have in the back of his mind written it off like, well, this is unfounded confidence. There's no reason why he needs to be this confidence, but after the performance that he gave, there must be a thought in AJ's mind like, well, I understand why he's confident now. Like, even if that wasn't the best version that we've ever seen of Tyson Fury, what Ngannou was able to do to him shouldn't have happened, right? And I would say the argument to make is that Fury is much more difficult to hit than AJ, and Ngannou was still able to connect. And I think if he connects on AJ will certainly feel it through his gloves.
And you, as a PFL ambassador, and the rest of the PFL, the fighters must be absolutely loving seeing Francis on this stage. But also, you can't wait to have him on your stage finally, right? And I'm guessing Saudi would be one of the perfect places to have it. There's been rumours that you're going to do an event there because obviously they have a massive investment in the company as well. So the seeds are being planted, and we want to see that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think if his performance against Fury wasn't as good as it was, I think we would have seen him back on the PFL. First third of this year, I think we would have seen him on one of the pay-per-view cards. But it just makes sense for him to stay in the boxing world right now. And he's carrying the PFL banner for us. And the good thing for me as a matchmaker, I can speak to these camps and boxers and managers and say, look what Ngannou's doing. Like, you can fight MMA, but I think you could box as well. So there's other doors open that Ngannou's showing the way for, and that's a big impact on the whole sport of mixed martial arts.
And he's doing the PFL no harm as well, because he's saying to Tyson Fury last time, you come over and fight me in the PFL. And he might say that today to AJ. How insane would it to see the reverse now and see a boxing megastar come to MMA and in the PFL against Francis Ngannou, AJ, Tyson Fury? Wilder's actually said he's one of the only people to say, yes, I am actually interested, legit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Wilder would do it, especially because right now it looks like he needs something to reinvigorate him. It looks like he needs something to excite him about training. Now, when he was at the PFL a few weeks ago, I managed to get a pair of PFL gloves on Deontay Wilder's hands, so he felt the 4-ounce gloves, and I know that there was excitement in his eyes when he put those gloves on. I would love to see someone cross over. Of course, what Ngannou has to put to one side to step into a boxing ring compared to what a boxer would have to recruit to step into an MMA space is very difficult. It's easier, I would say, for us to switch off a big portion of our skill set than to try and recruit those things before stepping in. But it's got to happen at some point, whether it's Wilder or AJ, or I even still think Fury has got an opportunity and a good chance of crossing over to MMA and doing well. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that happening.
Yeah, if I had to pin you down and say yes or no, do you think it happens? I mean, this year might be a push with everything that's happening in the boxing world and the Bellator acquisition as well. Everyone wants to see those champion versus champion fights as well, so that might be something for next year, surely, right?
Yeah, I think so. But then, who knows? like I wasn't expecting this fight. So you know the combat sports world's moving very quickly and in very unusual directions right now. So if in 6 months' time, like say for example, you know, Ngannou wins this fight, who knows where he goes next? Does he stay in boxing? Does he come back to MMA and bring a boxer over with him? This year is we're off script already. You know, it's January, we're already off script. No one knows what's happening this year. So we may well see a heavyweight boxing champion step into MMA before the year's out.
And we've seen mixed cards in the past from other companies. We've seen Bellator do that in the past. They've had kickboxing fights on MMA shows. I think you know where I'm going to go with this, right? So Riyadh season is making all these dream scenarios come true. You're representing the PFL, Ngannou's representing the PFL. Is there a way we could either have an MMA fight involving Ngannou and a boxer, or Ngannou fighting in boxing again with a whole MMA card underneath it, or the reverse sense? You know, that seems like it's quite realistic to do now.
I couldn't agree more. I think it is. You know, especially like speaking to Peter Murray, you know, the head of the PFL, the guy that is making all these great ideas and signings. He's open for anything. Like he will quite happily put together a hybrid rules fight to entice some of the boxers to come over. But like, you know, as you said, other organisations are doing it. You know, One Championship does really good things with kickboxing and Muay Thai and grappling and MMA on the same card. I think combat sports fans generally are now we're now one of the same thing. It's not necessarily as much boxing or MMA or kickboxing. I think people that like combat sports are realising that there's something to be benefited if we start mixing them all together. I certainly hope we see it. Any kind of combat sports, I'm all for it, as long as the guys in there are trained and they know what they're up against.
Yeah, and one guy that has proved that he is trained and he knows what he's up against is Jake Paul. He's in the PFL as well. And last time I spoke to you, I said, were you up for fighting him at some point? He surely, you know, it would make sense as well. If you want a massive blockbuster pay-per-view card, stick him and Francis, main and co-main event, whether it's in America, whether it's in Saudi. We're going to see him fight in the PFL this year, right, surely?
Yes, I think so. I mean, he's been gearing up for the beginning of his MMA career. You know, we know he wrestled back in high school as well, and I expect that to be a real good foundation of his game. I know Logan Paul can wrestle and the real stuff as well as the pretend stuff. I think no matter what he turns his hand to, he's going to do well because he's going to commit himself to it and invest well. The challenge is, who do we match him up against? And I was really hoping that the Nate Diaz fight would happen, but that's now starting to look quite doubtful. But we'll see. You know, Jake Paul, I think, could find himself in mixed martial arts 3-4 fights in and then be legitimately looking for world titles in that sport as well.
When you look at the PFL as well, everyone in Manchester wants to see a card. Brendan, Lewis, like, they are going to be absolutely megastars in the company. I work quite closely with Lewis anyway, and he wants that. He wants that so bad. And the loss that happened in Dublin, I don't think it did anything in terms of his star power. He still retained a lot of what is likeable about him as a fighter. He didn't go out on his shield, he didn't get knocked out or anything. And yeah, he's got one of the most exciting highlight reels in the game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, McGrillen's a special fighter. Even though he's coming off that loss, that was a good learning experience for him. You know, Wesley Myers a problem for anybody, and there were lots of things that, a lot of things that McGrillen's going to gain from that, benefit from that are going to make him a better fighter through the rest of his career. We're going to see him back on track very soon. I have a feeling, and as you said, you know, a potential Manchester show. We've got Dakota, who won the European title. We've got loads and loads of fighters that we could put on a card in Manchester. So I'm hoping we end up there. It would be a special event.
Are you on the brink of announcing what the PFL Europe schedule is? Because it was around about this time last year that things got announced, and I think people are getting a bit antsy. They want to know what the schedule is, what the shows are, because you guys do a great job of announcing it from March till December like it was last year, so you don't keep anyone guessing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many, obviously, with this announcement. We've got some other announcements this week, PFL related, so it's going to be a busy week for announcements, and I think by the end of this week people will be starting to buy their tickets for the upcoming events. We've got a PFL event in Europe approaching very fast. Okay. So I've been matchmaking all week for it. Right. The card's almost put together. We're going to be announcing that very soon, and it's going to be a very special card, let me put it that way.
Final one, which champion versus champion fight excites you most?
Oh man, I mean, we're in the heavyweight realm at the moment, aren't we? I mean, you know, Ryan Bader stepping over. Of course, Ryan Bader was a light heavyweight as well, but he is a legit heavyweight champion. But what does he do with someone like the Problema, like Henan Fajeda, who's 6'8", you know, trains at American Top Team, moves so well, very powerful. That for me is a real question. And then honestly, I hope we get to see I hope we get to see Cyborg step in there against either, Kayla Harrison or Larissa Pacheco. I want to see those fights. But for me, heavyweight right now, Henan Fajeda, Ryan Bader, that's the fight to make for me.
And then Ngannou versus the winner, right?
Of course, absolutely. But then do you want to win that fight and face Ngannou? That's the question. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, that one.
It's true. But it's what the fans want to see, and I know it's what you want to see by that massive grin when I said that. So anyway, I know I've been chatting your ear off, but it's just pure excitement, Dan, like yourself. So I'm excited to see how this pans out and the PFL this year. So I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you.